Hello, all listeners. You are tuned in to the Destiny Show on powerofpurposeradio.com. Tonight, my special guest is Dr. Johnny Rice II. Dr. Johnny Rice is a assistant professor over at Coppin State University. He also serves as the criminal justice professor. And Dr. Rice is also recognized as a leader in the anti violence movement and has spent the last 18 years supporting low income fathers and families in the area of child welfare, youth development, and criminal justice in efforts to create a safe and stable community. Dr. Rice, as part of your leader and advocacy movement, have you seen any disparity in the increase or the decrease in how fathers are now taking a role and being more active in their children's lives?
Oh, well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Ms. Johnson, onto the show. I'm appreciative to have this platform just to talk that are very important to not only society, but particularly disenfranchised communities of color. I believe that through some of my work and as well as other kids in terms of responsible fatherhood in our respective communities, they are more engaged in what domestic violence can have on their family. And I believe that many fathers are becoming more involved because they want to do something different than what was, their experience in growing up. So, for instance, more fathers are aware of the impact that not being involved in that child's life in a positive way can have on their children. And so what I've seen based on some of the work that I've done over the last probably 15, 16 years is a growth in knowledge and awareness concerning the impact, the positive impact that fathers can have when they model healthy behavior.
Yes, and that was a very good example because as having an active father in the lives of young women and males in today's society, due to the amount of domestic violence that a lot of families are experiencing, I do know that a positive fatherhood can improve the statistics that decreases the amount of domestic violence that a child would experience or that a child would later on become an abuser.
Right.
And tonight on the
Um,
show, we will discuss some some data and statistics on domestic violence and how an abusive relationship can turn a child's life into a lot of negative impacts. And one of those negative impacts is sexual assaults. And sexual assault is defined as a sexual contact or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the recipient. And that means that it can be a forced sexual intercourse, or it could be child molestation and incest, or an attempted rape, or in fact, rape, period. And, and Dr. Rice, as the criminal justice professor at the college, is there any awareness on the number of sexual assaults that happens on campuses, or do you have any way of monitoring any activities that comes around when someone is sexual assaulted?
well, of course, department, they capture data, and as a part of, I believe, is the Clery Act, all colleges and universities across the country are responsible to capture information related to crimes, inclusive of any type of incidents in terms of sexual assault, be it rape or other forms of violence, that can take place, be it assault due to and some other incident where you have parties that have conflict. It could be students who aren't in a relationship. I think that over the past several years, there's been more that has been on college campuses, but unfortunately, as a result of the mishandling of a lot of rape and sexual assault cases. And so we can look at universities such as Baylor University and other schools that have athletes that have been prosecuted because they have been charged and convicted as a result of sexual assault on campus. And there was also a movie that came out called The Hunting Ground, which got a lot of attention. Some people say it was controversial, but it really hit home the message of how victims were reporting abuse and how the administrations of universities weren't attentive to those needs. We can look at situations, the Jerry Sandusky situation and other places where clearly there was a breakdown in communication and not communication, but reporting. So what we see is colleges, many who have been responsive and progressive as a result of some of these very tragic situations, have stepped up to the plate to increase the awareness and education amongst not only students, but faculty and administration, so that when an incident occurs, the appropriate protocols take place and the incident isn't brushed under the rug, and the victim gets the support and resources that they need to deal with the assault, but also connected to other victim services agencies, particularly sexual assault agencies, so that they can heal, because everyone deals with the association differently.
Yes, yes. And that's a very important statement you made, as making sure that it is being reported, because only 5% of rapes or attempted rapes on colleges are reported. And most of that is due to that the victim feels that no one will care and that it will not be taken care of. And half of the times they know their abuser. And so that's another reason why they do not report the assaults that happens on campuses. And with that being said, there are 37% of female rape victims that were first raped between the ages of 18 to 24. And these are the young students and girls that are just entering into college. So this would be their first or second year of colleges around this age, where they have been assaulted. And for the undergraduate women that are in college, 19% of those women experience attempted rape or have been sexually assaulted after entering into college. And so as you can see that there's only a difference, 19% of the undergraduates. So these are the ones that have been in college for a while. And then you can see how the number increases with the 37% of the ones that are first entering into college. And with this being the case, that's why it's important for the Department of Education, which has enacted an act called the Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act. And with this act, this is where all colleges and universities are required to report any sexual assaults or rapes. So if there are any victims that are attending colleges and you have been assaulted or raped on college campuses, it's very important for you to understand that there is an act, and this act is a protection, and you can get help, and the abuser or the raper that has raped you, there are consequences for his actions, and he will be handled appropriately. And I also want to say that the victim that has been raped, it is not your fault, 100% not your fault. And this is one reason why a lot of victims do not report it, is because they feel it's my fault. I knew this person, or I was drinking, or something happened. But it's 100% not your fault if you have been raped or assaulted on campus. And when we look at domestic violence that happens, domestic violence, sexual assault happens very, very frequently in relationships when it comes to domestic violence. And Dr. Rice, do you understand or do you have any information for our listeners that how domestic violence and sexual assault plays together in a relationship?
Well, I think there is, definitely the intersection and some of the tactics that are used, particularly around power and control, and the need and the will to dominate another individual is also central. And so, it's used as rape and sexual assault is used as a tool to oppress. It's a violent, illegal act. And in many instances, you can be in a relationship with someone that you care for and love, and still that individual, even if it's a husband, regardless if you're in same-sex relationships or we still find that, regardless of that, you can be a victim, you demise. And really, the unfortunate thing is some of those tactics of isolation associated with reporting and the challenges of reporting and getting indifferent feedback from family in some instances and friends who may not be supportive can make the shame that's associated with being violated and it also, it's not just limited to, women. We see more and more research that starts to shed a light on men, be it if men who have been sexually assaulted or raped in prison, men who are sexually assaulted and raped in the military, as well as women. And even now there's been more stories that are hitting the mainstream media in terms of men who have been violated and assaulted. And due to the issue of masculinity, you may have men that don't know where to go and may not report it at all. And so I just share that to say that those tactics that are used in domestic violence can also be employed in terms of sexual. And what I would say as well is that, and I'll mention near the end when we talk about resources, there are some colleagues that I have that lead organizations that focus specifically on this issue in terms of the intersection of domestic violence and sexual assault. I believe can also be a tremendous resource to our listeners.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. That would be very useful, some information that Dr. Rice would share with everyone that's listening. And Dr. Rice also spoke about men that have been sexually assaulted. It's true. 4.8% of men have reported that they were penetrated or sexually assaulted by someone that lives in their home. And see, this is where we're talking about the power and control and the intimidation and incest and rape and other type of things. So we don't want to just not say, give credit to the men that have been sexual assaulted as well. So with that being said, is that if there's any men out there as well that are experiencing being sexual assaulted and taken advantage of, there are resources for men as well. You can also call the RAIN hotline number, and they service both male and women. And RAIN website is www.rainn.org. Their phone number is 1-800-656-4673. And RAIN is a national sexual assault hotline that helps any victim that has been sexually assaulted, raped, or forced to do some sort of act that you were not willing to do. And Dr. Rice, there has been a new law that passed in the state of Maryland in October. Now, my organization has been the one that has pushed this new this new law, and this new law has to do with sexual assault as well as sexual acts, um, posting of any type of porn on sexual websites. That is a way of intimidating and controlling a victim of domestic violence. And this law has been passed because my daughter experienced a variety of these acts against her. And this law is a misdemeanor law. So if there's anyone that has been victimized by your abuser or someone you know that has used any type of sexual photos, that has threatened you in any type of way, or that has signed you up for any type of sexual websites that you are unaware of and that you did not sign yourself up for, there is a protection in the state of Maryland that now protects you. And it's very important for everyone to understand that with this misdemeanor crime, misdemeanors in the state of Maryland can vary from 10 to 20 years in prison. And I would like to say that it's very, very important for anyone that's experiencing any type of assault or threat and that has been victimized in any type of aggression, electronic aggression, and has to do with emails, texts, or cell phones, that you are now protected. And, and Dr. Rice, with this new law that has passed, can you give our listeners some examples of why this is a very important law and how being protected by this law can also help with some of the violence that they are experiencing?
Well, I think legislation is important to protect and provide accountability, to protect victims, but also to provide accountability for individuals who are tormenting those victims and using pictures without the permission. So, for example, we may have a young couple that is dating, and they may, as adults, agree to exchange photos. And later they may end the relationship, and as a way to try to coerce the victim, the person who may have want to be in a relationship with their abuser, they may be penalized or harmed by this information being made public to their employer, by this information being shared with their family, by these photos that were supposed to be intimate photos between two individuals now are being used as a way to harm and really shame the victim. And it can have a lot of different consequences, be it mental health consequences leading to suicide. It can also initially, with many individuals, bring about depression. And in some cases, it may that the victim may not want, but in efforts to not have that information go public, they may feel that they have no choice to go along and stay in a relationship so that they are not harmed, be it physically later or mentally, based on that information being shared with others. And so, people have livelihoods, and, depending upon how they perceive the utilization of those pictures, it can then be, as you said, shared with other websites that could put the victim at risk of significant harm. And then it could open the victim up to a whole world of internet trolls and perpetrators. And so it's important to have something in place so that the law enforcement system can pursue these individuals, the court can pursue these individuals and make them held accountable for the act, but also I think it's important so that the victim knows that there is some recourse as a result of this.
Yes, that is very true. And with that being part of the reason why my organization is behind this, my organization started this type of consequences is because it's very important for everyone to know that if there's anything used against you, against your will, that you can seek justice for that. And it also has to do with when that person, like Dr. Rice said, wants to use power and control against you. So now he's intimidating you. He's also using that as a threat against you, as well as that's another form of sexual abuse, because now they're abusing you, not physically abusing you sexually, but they emotionally sexually abusing you. And when you have this type of pictures or some sort of a website that has your name, your address, that has your photos or your body doing something that you did not ask for, then yes, it's important to know that now you are protected and there are laws. Also, this also goes under the Peace Order Act as well in the state of Maryland. So if you are seeking a peace order for any type of grounds that involves domestic violence and control, and if you are receiving threats through a text message or email, all of this now goes under the peace order. And if anyone breaks that peace order by still continuing to contact you by any type of electronic device, you are now protected. And there are more than 3 women a day being murdered in domestic violence relationships. And as we know that in certain states it might be more than 3. Right now, the data and statistics now are just giving us the number 3. And I would like to make that an awareness to anyone that's in a domestic violence relationship, because if there are 3 women a day being murdered in a domestic violence relationship, it's important for these women to understand that when they say that they will threaten, when they say they will kill you, and then they are telling you the truth, they will kill. And every 9 seconds, a woman is being beaten by her husband or boyfriend. And with that being every 9 seconds, that means that since we've been here tonight, that there have been at least 1,000 women that have been beaten by her boyfriend or husband. And this is another reason why it's important for us to get stronger laws and stronger legislations and to get the correct people behind us to help us with these bills and to create bills that are lifetime bills, bills that will not expire, because we don't want our life to expire before it's time. And it's very important for us to be safe. And domestic violence, there's nothing safe about it at any time ever. And approximately there are 1 in 4 female high school students that have reported being physically or sexually assaulted by her boyfriend. And as you can see, that the numbers now are the female high schools. So